This is Kathy from Gadget Stop 321, and earlier this week I inked up my Kaweco AL Sport with Robert Oster Cafe Crema. And originally I was using the stainless steel medium nib that came in the pen, but it was just writing kind of dry. Even after I let the pen sit a little while, it was still just kind of dry. So I switched nibs to the 14 karat fine nib, and it was writing quite a bit better. The ink felt good going down on the page. I still wasn't getting the golden brown that I was expecting from my previous writing tests, but it felt good. And so this morning I was using my pen to journal with, and I had written about half of an A5 size page, and just without warning, the pen stopped. I scribbled on a little piece of scratch paper, nothing. It gave the pen a little flick in case there was an air bubble. Played with it some more, nothing. So I primed the feed, and I primed it pretty good, and still nothing. Primed it some more, and I could see ink coming up around the feed. Still wouldn't write. So I scribbled on some more scratch paper, and the pen burped. And when I went to write, then it was writing fine. And so I was just continuing to journal. And after a couple sentences, again, it just stopped without warning. And so I scribbled on the scratch paper again, and it burped again. But then when I went back to journaling, I was getting this nice golden brown. And I journaled, the rest of the page, and it wrote that nice golden brown the entire time. So I wanted to go ahead and try one more writing sample with this. It's been a few hours since I wrote with the pen. I'm curious to see if it's going to continue to write like it did this morning, or I'm just curious to see what happens. Yeah, this feels nice. Now I can tell with this ink, the faster I write, the lighter it's going to be. This is a drier ink. Yeah, look at that. It looks like a completely different ink. This looks orange, and the brown is coming through. So one of the things I noticed this morning, this is a drier ink. It's not as dry as the Yozakura was, but look at how it's sticking in the converter. I need to get some beads, some of the little plastic beads out of a couple empty ink cartridges and put them in there, see if they'll work to kind of break the surface tension. They'll act as, I guess, ink agitators. I need something in there to keep the ink agitated. And if that doesn't work, I'll invest in some little metal bearings. I've been using my Kaweco AL Sport for a couple days, and it's been doing okay. But I really want to put an ink agitator in the converter. I'm going to use the little plastic bead from an empty ink cartridge. Ideally, you would want to do this in between inkings when the converter is empty, but I've still got ink in here. This might end up being a mess, but you just don't know till you try. So I've got my little notebook I have here. I made it, or notepad. This is from the little scrap of paper that I cut down an A5 moleskin Kahir notebook, and then I just cut that little strip in half and used some bookbinder's glue to make a little notepad. This makes nice bookmarks or just a little scratch pad when you're trying to get a pen to write. So let me see if this one's writing right now. Yeah. And let's see. It's writing brown. So it's doing pretty good, but I just want to have a bead in there, especially when it gets down to lower levels of ink. You can see where I've been priming the feed, and I see a little ink bubble up there. All right, so think what I'm going to do is kind of flick it a little bit, get the bubble up to the top. And I did not think this through because I need a little piece of tape to tape up the mouth of the converter. We'll see how well this works. Now I want that ink bubble up at the top. I'm gonna tap it on the table. I want that little ink bubble up by the plunger. Okay, let's see. Just unthreading this little metal piece. Slowly pull that little plunger out. What am I doing? I didn't even get the bead ready. Okay. Start over. Plan ahead. Don't do what I do, just winging it. Plan ahead. Okay. I'm gonna put my ink cartridge in there. Alright. I looked through all of my cartridges. Some of them were much more rigid than others. This one that was branded Pelican was pretty soft, so I thought it would be easier to cut through. It was more rubbery instead of a hard, brittle plastic. Okay, there's a little bead. And I set it on the napkin so it wouldn't roll away. Okay. Okay, and it sunk through the ink pretty quickly. That makes me think it's dense enough. It's going to work well as an ink agitator. Oh, bad move. Ah, I just squirted ink all over myself. Okay, whoa. Okay. Oh, man. This was a bad move. Okay. Look how much ink I saved. I should have just emptied it. But we've made it this far. Okay. Oh, what a mess. Hindsight is 20/20. Of course, you cannot put a syringe back together with liquid in it. It's going to squirt everywhere. But I do believe the bead is going to help. I had a little bit of a hard start right there. But it's still writing a nice dark brown. But all the ink that was in the converter when I started is either spilled out or now it's up in the feed. There's the little bead, and there's not really enough ink left in there to agitate, but the bead is, moving freely back and forth. And I think that will help. I don't think I'm going to have to add 2 beads, but I'll try it with a few more inks. One thing I do want to see is the bead going to fall out? Is it big enough to stay in the converter? Yeah, so I think 2 millimeters is the right size bead to have. So if I do have to order some metal beads or metal bearings, 2 millimeters will be the right size. Time to clean out and try a new ink. Before I put any more ink in this converter, I wanted to test it with some water, which should behave like a dry ink. I just want to see if that little plastic bead is dense enough to keep any liquid moving. I'm also going to test my Pilot Con 40. I want to see how much better the metal beads or metal bearings are at moving the water around or moving the ink. And one thing I keep meaning to mention is at the same time I ordered these little Kaweco converters, I ordered the Monteverde converter. And even though this appears to be standard international, it does not fit in my Kaweco. And I went back and I read a product description of it. This only fits on certain pins. It does fit my little Monteverde Paquito, but it is a really tight fit. I am concerned about, since the mouth of the converter is not reinforced, I am concerned about it splitting. So let me get a little water. I'm just going to fill it partially full. And let's see. The bead does appear just to be stuck in there. I gave it a little shake and yeah, it's not doing a lot to keep the ink moving. Okay. Let's try the Con 40 with the metal bearings. Now the Con 40, another thing it has going for it, it looks like it has a larger diameter, so that will help as well. Now the beads do move more freely, but the liquid's not moving. The beads are moving, but what would be the ink is still stuck in the back. Well, it moved that time. Now, ink probably is not going to be as dry as this water is, or be as sticky, maybe. Okay, the metal beads do move more freely, but it's not moving the water. So, I don't know. I did order some metal bearings. I got the 2 millimeter size. These are, in the Con 40, they're 1 millimeter. So, when those come in, I will test them. I'm wanting to ink this pen up with Jacques Vert Atlantide, the 350 anniversary, that green ink that's got silver and gold shimmer in it. And I thought that ink's not, I don't think it's a dry ink, but the ink agitators I would think might help keep the shimmer stirred up. So we'll see how that works out. All right, I don't know how helpful this video was, but if you found this video helpful, please give me a thumbs up, or even if you didn't, please just give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel.